Sam host. Dina Obadallah joins us now with Bradley Devlin, who's politics editor for the Daily Signal. Welcome to you both. There's a lot of angles we could take this from. Dean, you take it first on if Bernie and AOC is kind of the answer for the left right now. What would you say?
I think where the energy is. It's not about progressive versus moderate. I think the media is missing it. I talk to callers who are Democrats every night on my show. I have that privilege. It's a difference between fighters versus people who want to find common ground with Trump or actually help him with his agenda. The Democratic base wants fighters. They want people who are going to stand up to Donald Trump and the MAGA agenda, protect Medicaid, protect Social Security, and the list goes on, and protect our democratic republic. So it's not really left versus moderate. That's just not the reality of what I'm hearing night in and night out.
All right, let's talk about that. Bradley, what do you think? So, as I said, Bernie Sanders has been saying, all right, we don't need everybody to run as Democrats, they can run as independents. But what do you think of what Dean said? Because I've seen some Republicans saying, you know what, this is perfect for us. We love to have these people who are associated with the far left out there making the case. And Dean says there's more to it. What do you say?
Well, I think for Republicans, of course, figures like AOC have been massively beneficial to their coffers. But I will say this. I have a lot of respect for President Donald Trump because he blew open the Overton window in the Republican Party. I have that same respect for Senator Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I know people like to write them off as fringe folks, but they have really gotten their priorities into the Democratic mainstream. Look at Bernie Sanders. He was one of the only people advocating for universal health care. In 2020 and 2024, nearly every candidate was saying we want to have a socialized medical system. AOC and her Green New Deal, those priorities made their way into several major pieces of Biden legislation. So these folks, once thought of as outsiders, they've really made connections with the Democratic base, and those connections have turned into real power within their Democratic conferences or, caucusing with Democrats in the case of independent Bernie Sanders in Washington, D.C.
Here's the kind of thing they've been saying in this tour. Again, this is day 2, but this is how they put it in terms of what they're sounding the alarm about. Take a listen to both of them. And then I want to talk and pick up, Dean, on the earlier point you made about the left and the moderates. Here's how they sound.
We need to be honest about where we are, because we are witnessing an oligarchy in America.
They are like heroin addicts. They need more and more and more. And if they destroy Social Security and Medicaid to get what they want, that is what they will do.
That last part probably resonates with a lot of people, about wherever you come from, especially working class voters, the part about Social Security and Medicaid. But when you start using words like oligarchy and all of this, to go back to your earlier point about left and moderate, I'm not sure who that resonates with. And whether that helps the Democratic brand. But pick up on your points.
First of all, who was Bernie talking about with the heroin? That's what I wanted to know. I'm not sure was that big money or that was, I'm like, that was kind of jarring. I'm not sure. If he's talking about the wealthy, what's kind of remarkable is through time, the uber wealthy, it's insatiable, their appetite for more wealth. People don't get it from the Gilded Age to today, which is a new Gilded Age,
right?
Where the wealthy have an inordinate amount of power. So if that's what he meant, I'm down with that. The heroin part, I'm not sure. Look, it's on the left and the right. If you see polling, we want big money out of politics. We want our voice to be heard. The overlap between Trump and Bernie, and I didn't expect it was going to be when I learned there was, start fighting for the working class people and people perceiving that. I don't like Donald Trump at all, but people perceive him as fighting for the working class. Same thing with Bernie. So oligarchy or not, forget that term. It's about taking the power from the wealthy, giving it back to the people. That's where Democrats should be, because that's where Republicans have been, oddly enough, even though they're actually a billionaire's row that are the cabinet under Donald Trump, the wealthiest cabinet in the history of our republic.
Oh, so AOC just took the stage there. This is Greeley, Colorado. Again, day 2 of their tour. I guess the question would be, Bradley, if they're both going after the same crowd, right, theoretically, and we saw that going back to 2016, some overlap between Bernie and Trump. At first people said it was crazy, but then people started to realize what was going on with it. But the policy proposals are different, and you wonder, and I wonder, and I want to get both of your takes, we'll start with Bradley on this, whether Trump is more in tune with what those people want to do policy-wise, even if both are trying to go after that crowd. In other words, working class voters, who are they more in line with?
Yeah, I think the major problem with Bernie Sanders' platform in 2016 and then in 2020 was his complete reversal on the immigration issue. In 2015, before he declared, he called open borders a Koch brothers conspiracy. Koch brothers are not people of the left. Bernie Sanders, the old Bernie Sanders, had a B+ rating from the NRA. He was anti-unfettered immigration. He really took that immigration policy seriously, because it's not just where we send our jobs overseas, it's also the labor market. Is that being undercut by the importation of migrants? And Bernie Sanders' answer, until he decided to cozy up with the corporate Democratic Party, was no, we shouldn't have unfettered immigration. So to see him switch on that issue, I think that gave Trump a lot of credibility with the working class. I think the working class sees the effect on their wages. Look at the BLS reports showing that a lot of the wage gains that the United States experienced under the Biden administration actually went to migrant populations, illegal and legal. That's not good for the American worker. They think it's a raw deal. They think this globalization raw deal has been perpetrated on them for 40 years.
Right.
And so a lot of them did gravitate towards Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, and now Donald Trump has the upper hand.
What do you think of that, Dean, that it might be immigration? I think the overlap is on trade, to Bradley's point. There is a lot of overlap there between the far left and Trump on trade. But on immigration, he does have an advantage in most of the polling, and maybe he has the advantage with those types of voters there. What would you say?
Look, I don't think immigration is an issue that's moving people right now. I think the economy is, consumer sentiment's at the lowest level it's been in 3 years.
Right.
I just had 2 Democratic candidates on who are running for Congress in the special election in Florida, April 1st. I asked them, what are voters coming up to you about? They said overwhelmingly the economy, tariffs, and veterans, Republican veterans, are coming up to them and saying, they're taking my benefits. They're slashing 80,000 workers from the VA. These are real. This is not kitchen table.
I can see that one.
Lifeline
the tariffs, though.
Right, so
what are they saying about tariffs?
Tariffs are freaking them out because they understand that's a tax. So it's a 25% tax. If it gets applied the way Trump talks about and reciprocally, they are fearful of the unknown, right? The unknown is big taxes on things, our goods, when the economy is slowing. Objectively speaking, that's not political spin.
But that's like a free market, argument that would be the opposite of like a Bernie Sanders AOC. It's just kind of funny how things are flip-flopping here a little bit, it seems like.
Real people don't think about free market versus tariffs, protections. They think about, can I afford to put food on the table for my family? I think April 1st, you're going to see something very remarkable in these 2 districts. They're solid red. Republicans won by 30 points. Matt Gaetz's and Mike Waltz's thing. Maybe you see an upset. Maybe you see Democrats get within 2 or 3 points. That would say a lot to the nation. We'll see. Or maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's 30-point blowout. We're going to see on April 1st.
Because the numbers have been brutal for the party, for the Democrats. We talked about Trump's approval going down a few points, but nothing compared to where the Democrats are as a brand, right? Which Right. All right, Bradley, finish this up here.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see something particularly close in Florida just because the state has trended so far red. Also, Democrats, as you mentioned, Connell, so demoralized at this point. And I think that's what they see in AOC and Bernie Sanders. They see people who can reignite, reinvigorate the Democratic base. Senator Schumer, I think, was right to keep the government open, but he is going to have to deal with this for quite some time. Members of his own conference wanting to buck him, a lot of pressure from the House of Representatives telling them that they can win a shutdown battle like that. At the end of the day, I think Schumer did the right thing, and Schumer now needs to go home with his allies and convince the base that they can stay energized and stay up with all of these lawsuits, right? We're fighting as much as we can in Congress without being irresponsible electorally. We need to rely on our apparatuses in the judiciary or in the courts to make sure that we have a check on this executive. That's my argument if I'm Chuck Schumer. I don't think you're going to see that argument take for the Democratic base. I think Dean's absolutely right. They want fighters, man.
That's what they want in the base. Yeah, that's what the activist base wants right now. Thank you, Dean, and thank you, Bradley. I tell you what, look, if we can go back to AOC, bring that shot up full for a moment here. We have a lot more coming up.